What if I told you there's a cloud accounting ERP system that has over 5 million users worldwide, and this ERP system only has one accounting firm listed in their Find an Accountant directory for all of North America? I'm guessing you're thinking, it sounds like an opportunity to get new clients and grow your firm. Stay tuned to hear more from our sponsor, Odoo, later in the episode.
I feel like the thing we have learned from all of this is that it's best just to wait until the last minute to do anything because the rules keep changing, right? Like
it keeps getting better. That's correct. It keeps getting better the longer you wait.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, like you said, what the AICPA is calling these rules unfair, these changes unfair, and are saying that the SBA and Treasury should change this so that it's retroactive and extend the deadline. Today is Sunday, March 7th. Welcome to the Cloud Accounting Podcast. I'm Blake Oliver.
And I'm David Leary. Blake, another week went by, and I'm still not Bitcoin rich.
You're not?
No.
Well, it appears that I may have given you the wrong advice on our recent episode when you talked about buying the Bitcoin at the grocery store from the vending machine. You bought $4 of Bitcoin, right?
Yes.
And then you bought another $10 when we were hanging out together to test the Square mobile app.
Well, I think I bought $10 on the Square Cash App and $20 on PayPal. Okay. So and diversified.
And I told you, I said, oh, David, you know that means that you're going to have to answer yes on this 1040 question, the question at the top of the tax form 1040 that requires you to say whether or not you have acquired an interest.
And that question was added last year, right? To the tax forms?
I think it was for 2019 or I don't remember exactly, but it's on the 2020 as well, right there at the top. And it says, at any time during 2020, did you receive, sell, send, exchange, or otherwise acquire any financial interest in any virtual currency? And so I assume that'll be there on the 2021 forms as well. And so you'll have to answer yes to that. But then the IRS came out with an FAQ about this saying, no, that if your only transactions involve virtual currency during 2020 and were purchases of virtual currency with real currency, so buying Bitcoin with US dollars, you are not required to answer yes to the Form 1040 question, which is crazy to me because it directly contradicts the question. I mean, unless I'm just totally reading this wrong. If you acquire a financial interest in a virtual currency, like if you buy Bitcoin with US dollars, is that not acquiring an interest?
Well, I think this is like trying to keep it from hiding taxable income. So in theory, if you buy it and then I'm going to sell this eventually, I'll have to report the gain.
Right.
Right. And so that's going to get caught in my taxes normally. But if I sold some service for Bitcoin and that's not being reported, like that'll never show up anywhere. And I think that's what they wanted people to declare.
The taxable stuff. Yeah. I mean, the purpose of the question, I don't know if we actually know what the purpose of the question is, according to the people who dreamt it up. But it's to trap people, isn't it? Isn't that the whole point? Because if you answer no and you are aware that you had these transactions, then you're perjuring yourself, right? That's a crime. So you have to answer yes, or they can trap you that way. You can't say I didn't know. You can't claim ignorance.
Yeah, especially if people were purposely doing things through Bitcoin to avoid paying taxes.
Right.
Right. They're getting paid for services and products.
I heard about this because Shihan Chandrasekera posted this on Twitter and then on his cointracker.io blog. And his article is titled "Cryptocurrency Buys Are Not Reportable to the IRS." And I still can't get over the contradiction here. And then Matt Metris on Twitter, in one of these threads about this, where we were talking about it, he said, it's important to remember there's case law that specifically says a taxpayer can't rely on FAQ as it is not substantial authority. So we have a situation where the IRS put out an FAQ that contradicts the question itself. If you rely on the FAQ, but the IRS then says, no, actually, that's not correct, you're still in trouble.
So you're better off just saying yes.
I guess Kurt Mastio in the thread said, "This is so frustrating and wrong on many levels. Why even put FAQs out there if it's meaningless at the end of the day? It just creates more confusion for taxpayers. The lack of guidance here is getting increasingly frustrating." So I'm at a loss. I don't know what you're supposed to do, David.
Well, I have till next year because I didn't buy any of this in 2020. So
maybe they'll clarify it for you.
About that. And maybe I'll be super rich and I'll be happy to pay taxes on my Bitcoin gains.
Maybe your $10 of Bitcoin will be worth, $100,000 because it has gone to the moon and is now worth infinite money. And there's actually a guy on TV, a CEO of some exchange, Kraken, I think, talking about this. He's talking about how cryptocurrency is going to be worth infinite money, or Bitcoin will, because it's going to replace the US dollar as the currency we use. And I thought to myself, if that happens, that's great for you, but I think it would mean probably the end of the global economic system.
Yeah, there's a lot of,
the outcome.
There's a lot of $100 bills running around out there. That's pretty standard exchange.
Yeah. So anyway, good luck with that.
This episode of the Cloud Accounting Podcast is sponsored by Relay Financial. Do your clients use banks that make it harder for you to close the books? Do they make it harder to deliver financial visibility for clients? I'm guessing you said yes to both these questions. And that's because traditional banks aren't designed for your relationships with your small business clients. Thankfully, Relay Financial is. Relay is FDIC insured online banking that makes bookkeeping easy. You can access all your clients in a single portal, enjoy rich direct bank feeds to QuickBooks Online and Xero, automate payables with multi-stage approvals, and even spin up a new checking account for clients in seconds right from your browser. To join the thousands of accounting and bookkeeping firms that are standardizing their clients on Relay, check out their partner program at cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/relay. That is cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/RELAY.
What else is new?
We got other federal news, right? So a stimulus package came out. I think the AICPA is pushing, for better guidance and deadline changes.
That's right. Yeah, the $1.9 trillion stimulus bill passed the Senate on Saturday. It was a more than 24-hour-long voting session that included the longest single vote in the chamber's history. I'm amazed that the senators managed to keep going that long. I guess they must have been able to go sleep or something.
They were allowed to leave, yeah. So the poor intern had to stand there and just read it.
Oh, yeah, because one of the senators required the interns to read the whole text of the bill, which took 9 hours, right? It's a pretty big bill. I went through the summary of it, and I kind of I'm a little bleary-eyed after doing that. There's a lot in here, but I could give you a rundown, I guess, of the stuff that's probably the most important to accountants.
Yeah, what our clients are going to be asking. If I'm a client, either on a personal tax level or a client as a small business owner, what am I going to be asking my accountant about? Obviously, there's money. That's going to be question. When do I get my money? What money am I getting?
Well, so there's the stimulus checks. Obviously, that's the big thing. $1,400 per person. Phasing out earlier, though, than the House wanted. So now, starting at $75,000 of income and ending at $80,000, you're going to phase out that $1,400. So if you make more than $80,000 as an individual, you're not getting anything. Interesting that the phase out is so short, only $5,000 of income and it phases out completely. It's quite a cliff there. Why even have a phase out? I don't know. For couples, it's double. So if you make more than $160,000 as a couple, you don't get anything. Children and adult dependents in those households also get payments. So if you have a bunch of children, I guess you could get a lot of money, right? $1,400 per person. There are extended unemployment benefits. So federal unemployment benefits, the supplemental benefit of $300 per week was going to run out March 14th. And as long as the House passes this and Biden signs it, it's now going to extend to September 6th. There's also tax.
The thought process on that, I think I saw, was they don't want to end before they're sure the vaccines will be all fully distributed.
Which I think is a fair point. Tax relief on the first $10,200 in unemployment benefits for workers in households earning up to $150,000 per year. That's in the bill. So unemployment is taxable. This is going to exempt the first $10,200 in benefits for workers under that threshold of 150K. That should hopefully prevent a lot of surprise tax bills. We've got extended Cobra. So now if you got laid off and you're on Cobra, the continuing health insurance benefit, the government's going to cover 100% of costs for you through September so that you can keep your health insurance. Then there's also extended tax credits and childcare. So for low income and middle income families, the tax credits are going to extend for children. So we're going to $3,000 from $2,000 for each child aged 6 to 17. Children 5 and under will be eligible for $3,600. And tax credits will also be sent to households monthly starting in July. So you're not going to have to wait until filing your tax return to get your tax credits for your children. Now you can just get that every month throughout the year.
And how are you getting that? Are you filling out a document for your employer to add it to your paycheck? Is this a check they're going to be sending separately?
I'm not sure about that. I imagine they'll just be sending a check based on what you did in the past. That would make a lot of sense because that's how they did the stimulus payments, right? So if you claim the child tax credit last year, they'll just start sending it to you monthly, and then you'll reconcile that with your tax return.
So if you're in the, you have a lot of kids, you have low income, you had to do child tax care credit, this could add up to a significant check, $10,000 to $14,000, I think.
Yeah, I didn't do the math, but it does seem like it could be a lot. And I've heard discussion about how this is basically the beginning of a universal basic income.
Interesting.
In that if people are getting paid every month and it's this base amount for children, for low and middle income families, like that could very easily turn into a universal benefit. So I wouldn't be surprised ultimately if we end up with something like that. And part of the reason is because of automation. And you've got a story about that we're going to talk about later in the episode about robotic process automation. There's all sorts of manufacturing automation that's already happened in this country. I, as a believer in technology, who has seen the impact of automation on bookkeeping and accounting, and also how much is going to happen in the next 10 years, I wouldn't be surprised if we end up automating a lot of the jobs in this country. And then what are you going to end up with? You're going to end up with either a bunch of unemployed people who don't have skills to do the higher level work, and they're going to starve, or you're going to end up giving them a universal basic income. Like I think ultimately long term, that is going to happen. But the question is just how soon is that going to happen?
And is that is that it? Is that the whole stimulus?
A few more items. There's a bunch of stuff for states and schools and all that stuff, but I'll skip through that to the stuff that matters to our clients. Small businesses. So there's $25 billion for restaurants that have been struggling from lockdowns and closures. And I believe those are grants. There's $1.25 billion for venue operators. So live music operators, they have been shut down, have not been able to be open. Another $15 billion for EIDL loans and another $7.25 billion for PPP loans. And that's it.
So it sounds like they got it out the door. I guess March 15th, March 22nd, I think is the day they want to officially signed off. Yeah,
because they got to go back to the House and get that signed there or get it voted on there and then go to the president. But yeah, hopefully they'll make that March 14th deadline when unemployment benefits expire so that they don't have this gap again that they had.
So did you see that the AICPA is calling for the SBA to change the unfair PPP guidance and the deadline?
Yes, I did. And this actually impacted my family. My brother-in-law, he's a jazz bass player. So you can imagine he hasn't done very well this year.
Yep.
Or last year. It's funny, like I don't talk to him that frequently. And it didn't really even occur to me to ask him about PPP because I figured, he has an accountant. I figured that they would have taken care of it. And I was totally wrong. He didn't even know that he could get a PPP loan. And so actually waiting has helped him because I'm helping him apply for one. And now the rules have changed. The SBA said you can use gross income from your Schedule C instead of net income, which vastly increases the amount of money. I think it doubles the amount of money that he can earn because, he would get money from venues to play gigs and then he would end up paying his buddies. So like the net income he actually kept for himself was a lot less than his gross income.
Yes.
So he's going to do really well with that if we get it processed, right? If it goes through. But all the people who already took PPP loans that are sole proprietors, Schedule C folks, on net profit, the SBA is saying it's not retroactive. You can't go back and get more money, even though now you could. Isn't that? I feel like the thing we have learned from all of this is that it's best just to wait until the last minute to do anything because the rules keep changing, right? Like
it keeps getting better. That's correct. It keeps getting better the longer you wait.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, like you said, what the AICPA is calling these rules unfair, these changes unfair, and are saying that the SBA and Treasury should change this so that it's retroactive and extend the deadline, because there's no way we're all going to be able to refile our loan applications and get the extra money if we don't extend it. So what is it? 2 more months or something they're asking for?
Yeah, the deadline's March 31st, but does it say when they asked for it, how long they want it to extend?
I think they want like another 2 months or something. And that's similar to what they're asking for with the tax deadline too, right?
Yeah, I saw they want to push the tax deadline out to June 15th. And I really feel like there's still mixed opinions on that, on like tax Twitter, et cetera. People have strong opinions of this, both sides.
Well, it's like the tax season that never ends, right? We're doing it again this year from last year. I think people just want it done with, because a lot of times the deadline is the forcing function that actually gets your clients to get you what you need. So if you extend the deadline, all it does is just make them procrastinate longer. That's one of the arguments there.
Makes sense.
So that's what the AICPA is saying this past week. Delay the tax deadline to June 15th, make the PPP changes fair, and also extend that deadline. And by the way, for our listeners, if you have friends and family that have Schedule C income and you haven't talked to them about PPP, maybe they didn't know. Maybe they didn't file. Like, I thought everybody knew about this thing, but gosh, I found out my own brother-in-law didn't know. So I'm going to help him get a good chunk of money. And especially like if you haven't been communicating with clients, like send that email, make those calls, because it could be life-changing, at least for the next year or so for people, next few months anyway.
Especially, yeah, if people, like you said, like you're a brother-in-law, like if you are in the arts, you're in one of these industries that there's really been no work, but you're kind of an individual. You're not really, you don't consider yourself a business, because he probably doesn't consider himself a business, right?
No, he doesn't, not at all.
So why would he try to get the PPP loan? He just wouldn't even have guessed it applies to him. So you're right. I think for a lot, this is probably more of an issue for listeners that have clients they just come to them for their personal taxes, and they don't really think of them as their business clients. Like they're not doing bookkeeping for those clients. It's probably going to be that set of clients that you're just doing personal taxes for. When you do their 2020 return, you're going to quickly realize like you never got any PPP loan, have you? And now you can start to get that process going.
And there's not too much time left, because if the deadline doesn't extend, it's the end of this month. So I would jump on that for clients
right away.
Right away.
That's good. This episode of the Cloud Accounting Podcast is sponsored by Odoo. Do you have a client that has outgrown QuickBooks or Xero? Or do you have a client that is still on QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise Edition because all the current cloud accounting offerings lack the depth of features and controls that your clients need? Or maybe you have a client with legacy desktop ERP system and they are ready to move to the cloud. Let me introduce you to Odoo. Odoo is a highly customizable cloud ERP system with everything your clients need, including dozens of built-in app modules and thousands of third-party apps. By using the Odoo Studio, you can build custom forms, menus, reports, automation workflows, and even your own no-code needed app. The accounting and invoicing modules are always free, so there's no reason not to give Odoo a try today. Head over to cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/Odoo. That is cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/ODOO. Unleash your growth potential with Odoo. You want enough with the US? You want to talk about the UK and Europe?
Yeah, I heard there's a bunch of stuff going on over there with acquisitions and fundraising, and is that what we're going to talk about?
The big three, so Freshbooks, Xero, and QuickBooks, all have news that involve the UK or EU this week. We can start with the smallest one, which is Freshbooks. So Freshbooks is partnered with an open banking technology provider called SaltEdge, and it's basically to help them expand in the European Union. SaltEdge apparently from what I can tell, it's very similar to a Plaid style product, right? It'll allow FreshBooks to connect to 5,000 financial institutions in 50 nations. So this is FreshBooks is continuing their push into the UK and to the European Union.
So this is a bank feed intermediary.
That's correct. It's a middle app similar to Stripe. Yep.
Got it.
And then you have QuickBooks. QuickBooks launched a bank account. So they launched QuickBooks Cash here in the States, which is the bank account. It pays 1%. You get your free ACH. And now they've launched a bank account in the UK. It looks like it's just called QuickBooks Business Account. Looks like it's the name. It's kind of very vague and generic. But they partnered with a payments as a service fintech called Modular, MODULR. And essentially, you're going to get all your payments infrastructure all built into your QuickBooks Online. So faster payments, and then they handle all the payments and the rails. They have relations with Visa, MasterCard, et cetera. But then they also, because the Bank of England and the IRS, I'm blanking out on the name of the
UK Revenue Authority.
It's like Her Majestic,
Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. Is that it? HMRC?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I love that name. So majestic.
So Modular, they're kind of a middleman tech stack that they work between the Visas and MasterCards and fast payments, and they connect all the way up to which is the equivalent of the Fed in England, which is the Bank of England. And so this allows this to be like a real bank account with all the connections somebody would need right from the side of QuickBooks in the UK.
Got it. So like QuickBooks Cash is going to the UK is the essence of this.
Essentially, yes. Yep.
All right.
And then Xero made a big jump. So Xero spent almost $300 million to acquire, I would say like it's the T-sheets of the EU. They acquired a company called Planday. And so what Planday allows you to do, it's time tracking, right? But then they also have a lot of planning software. So you plan out your schedules, et cetera. And they really take it to that next level where if you and I work for the same restaurant, we can like swap our shifts through a mobile app. I can see your schedule. You can see mine. We can message each other. The restaurant owner can message all the employees of the restaurant. So Planday is a little bit deeper than just plain old time tracking. But what they have is and this is where it's a big play for Xero. They have 350,000 employee users across Europe. And it's available in 14 languages. So as Xero continues to push internationally, it's a big jump for them. And then the opposite is true. This allows Xero to add an add-on service now in Australia. Like they can push Planday in front of their current base as well.
And Planday really reminds me of Deputy. Are you familiar with Deputy?
Similar color, yes. Similar, yes.
The employee scheduling and communication and task management, the punch clock. I mean, I haven't used Planday. I've only used Deputy, but it seems very, very similar. And one thing that's really cool about these kind of apps is that if you put in your employee pay rates, you can see on your schedule how much it's costing you per hour compared to also what you're taking in from your point of sale. So you're connecting your sales data to your payroll data, and you can actually get your staffing cost compared to your revenue, and you can set goals and targets. So that's really, really powerful because wages are often like the biggest expense of a business these days. Helps you control that cost. That's a controllable cost that if you control it well every single day, you can really improve your margins, right? It's like, and employees aren't going to necessarily help you do that. They want to stay at the restaurant or at the store as long as possible because that's how they earn their income. So, being able to know when it's time to send somebody home is really powerful.
And maybe actually think about the T-sheets rebranding, right? Because T-sheets is in the Xero App Store, just like
that's a little awkward.
HubDocs in the QuickBooks app, right? Like HubDocs available as a QuickBooks add-on as well. And when they were sub-branded, it would still be like T-sheets by QuickBooks or it'd be HubDoc by Xero. But now that they've completely rebranded T-sheets to QuickBooks time tracking, like I'm kind of wondering, like, is that going to get turned off in the Xero app marketplace? Because I don't think they're going to lead with the word QuickBooks in their marketplace. But I just went there right now, though. It looks like it's still just branded. It's just the T-sheets app card, the T-sheets logo. So I imagine it's just like whoever's in charge of updating the app card just never got around to it. It just hasn't happened yet.
Well, but it is
So the
awkward.
branding.
It is awkward about, like to have your competitor brand in your own app store. Like, will they allow that? Will that be the end of T-Sheets integrating with Xero or being in the app store anyway? I'm curious.
And then the same is going to be true because I'm pretty sure Planday is inside the QuickBooks App Store as well.
It's a little less awkward when it's HubDoc powered by Xero or Planday powered by Xero. It's not quite as in your face as
as long as they keep that branding separate, right? But they might,
exactly.
As soon as it tilts or tips the other way, which eventually it may do that.
Yeah.
The QuickBooks App Store is just going too slow, so you can cut this part out. Never mind. It just been
So another update from Xero is they are going to require multi-factor authentication on all accounts globally in the year ahead. That's a big announcement from them, which I think that's a reasonable thing to do. It's a good thing to do. Helps enforce.
It's kind of reasonable. But you see they created their own app, though, called Xero Verify.
Do I have to use this app?
It's not super clear that you have to use it, but it's strongly suggested that you do. Because it's, quote unquote, the only app that'll have push notifications. So when somebody does log in, you'll get some sort of push notification to your phone. I feel like they're solving a problem that we maybe don't need to be solved with this additional app.
Because I like to have all of my multi-factor authentication codes in one app that I can back up. So like I don't have to go and then recreate all of my codes every time I get a new phone. Like that's the benefit of using like a Google Authenticator or something versus a separate app for every single app. I hope that they give us the option of using LastPass or Google Authenticator or whatever else we want to use.
Yeah, I installed it, but I don't use Xero, but I installed the app just to see what it was like because the screenshots of it looks like a typical authenticator app.
Mm-hmm.
You have each one of your Xero files would have their own ticker go by, which I think is interesting because it looks like it's authentication down to the files, unless that's just like each of your clients and it's really their login. And then the notifications, you can snooze them apparently. So if I have 40 clients and I'm all hooked up, every time another client logs into that file, I don't need to see the notification. But if you snooze the notification, what's the point of having the app at all?
Right.
Because the whole point is you want to be alerted when somebody logs in. So you're like, oh, that's not a valid login. But if you snooze it, you'll miss the invalid logins. So
anyway,
I question the benefit of a standalone app like this. It's just another thing to install. I'm not sure it adds any. I don't think the standalone app adds any security level unless Xero's marching down this as part of their Xero HQ, right? And starting to get into your full firm management of apps, rolling out of apps, right? Unless it's heading down the path like that and that they're not really talking about.
Maybe. Hey, you mentioned QuickBooks Cash going to the UK or a bank account. I don't know if that's what they're calling it, but QuickBooks having banking capabilities in the UK. There's another app/bank called Counting Up that's already in the UK. They're fintech. They just closed a 9.1 million Series A investment led by Framework Venture Partners. And one of the investors participating is Sage. And I believe it was Rachel Fish who sent us this story because she's very on top of anything going on with Sage, having previously worked at Sage. So I thought this was interesting. Maybe this is a someday acquisition opportunity for Sage to have that banking plus accounting app. And to make it clear, this is a bank account, a fintech bank account, like the kind you have a mobile app on your phone to use. And it also has bookkeeping features combined with it. So very much
which we're seeing a lot of these startups,
yes.
Right? These new neo fintech banks, they're having some basic level of bookkeeping built into their bank account app.
Which makes total sense because if you're starting a business, why would you want to have to go and get a business bank account and then a separate accounting system and connect them together? That's easy for us. We've been doing it for years. It's not easy for a business owner to figure all that out. And if you're a bank and you say, hey, guess what? We have it all in one place. It at least gives you a place to start. That is the news about banking there. What else do we have this week?
I have Square, some news on Square again.
Okay.
Every week it seems like there's more about Square. So Square, they have purchased Tidal. Now, are you familiar with what Tidal is?
You talked about this before, like Square was working with Tidal. They're that music service that Jay-Z started.
Yeah. So essentially it's like Spotify, but Jay-Z started it. And, and a lot of it is to revolutionize the way artists get paid, because really like, people like Jay-Z, like they don't want Spotify taking some of that money, right? They don't want the record labels taking the money. You want to keep as much money as possible. And so there's some of the motivations behind that is trying to have the different business platform. What's happened now is it's been acquired by Square. Jay-Z is now on the board of directors at Square. So going back to this, like people that we didn't expect to be in our space are going to be in our space. So Jay-Z is on the board of directors at Square now.
I did not know that. That is fascinating.
He's on the board of directors. And they're envisioning this is going to help artists manage their entire financial life. And so if you think about this, you could have an artist get the Square bank. They could deposit their royalties or ticket fees straight into that bank. And maybe the payments for those tickets are coming from people right through the Cash App directly. Right. Mm-hmm. And then if you start taking this to the next level with, you've probably heard about these non-fungible tokens.
Yes. I just started, that just came on my radar this past week. How would you describe?
So we could take an episode of our podcast and tie it to a blockchain token and put it up for sale. And then we can control how many of those are up for sale. And then every time it sells, you and I could get 1% of the sale. And there's only a limited amount that exists, and that's kind of the way it would be. And so if you think about where you're an artist, you have a song, you're going to publish 1 million copies of this song. And if it gets sold, and every time it gets sold, in theory, you could get a piece of the action back to you, some royalty off of that. Or maybe it's all the way to the plays, right? It could be, because right now that's the problem with Spotify is all the money gets divided across the board. And so if you sign up and you only listen to these 6 artists, they're not going to get your chunk of your subscription. You're paying for other people's other artists you're not listening to. And a system like this, in theory, you're only paying for the music you're listening to, which means that money's only going to the artist that created that music, right? And so we think about Square's jump and how deep they are into Bitcoin, et cetera. It's a full ecosystem. And the only other note on this is they wonder, could this, when you build out this model with musicians, can this start to go to other verticals? This episode of the Cloud Accounting Podcast is sponsored by Margin Driver. Designed by top multi-channel e-commerce sellers, Margin Driver transforms financial reporting and accounting in the e-commerce world. Margin Driver is a real-time e-commerce accounting system that automates gross profit accounting, making business easier and more profitable for both you and your clients. By leveraging integrations with leading e-commerce platforms like Shopify, BigCommerce, Channel Advisor, and eComDash, marketplaces such as Amazon, eBay, Walmart, and Etsy, and shipping solutions like ShipStation, ShipWorks, and Amazon FBA, Margin Driver creates the perfect pairing for either QuickBooks or Xero to meet the unique needs of your multi-channel e-commerce clients. Margin Driver's real-time dashboards and reports incorporate it all, including the fees, refunds, shipping, and fulfillment costs, so that your clients can accurately calculate their cost of goods sold and profit all the way down to the individual order level. This will give you the ability to focus your clients on the best products and pricing strategies that will have the greatest impact on their bottom line. To learn more about Margin Driver and to get a 60-day free trial, head over to cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/margindriver. That is cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/MARGINDRIVER.
So let's talk about RPA and automation. I think there's a tie-in here to NFTs. Wait, is that non-fungible tokens? Yes. And what we're talking about there, because if you really drill down into what's happening here, non-fungible tokens, blockchain, smart contracts, all that stuff is probably going to automate a lot of work that people are doing manually in Excel at record companies. Think about it. Who calculates how artists get paid right now? I bet you there's an army of people with spreadsheets and computers and software doing all this stuff every month or quarter and cutting the checks and sending them out. But theoretically, with smart contracts and tokens like this, you could just automate the whole process and cut out all those financial middlemen. Are you with me there?
Yes.
So there was a story in the New York Times, not specifically about the music industry, but just about RPA in general. You saw this. I saw this because Todd Plager sent this to me, and the headline is awesome. The robots are coming for Phil in accounting.
And this is a very high level New York Times Sunday read style article for general America. This is not an article for our industry, right? But the fact that automation and accounting automation is being spoken about at this high, like, here's your Sunday read in the New York Times, right? It's not us talking about it on the podcast is pretty amazing to me.
Well, and the reason is that it has basically gone mainstream in corporate America. There's a stat here about how popular robotic process automation has become. Deloitte did a survey last year and found that nearly 8 in 10 corporate executives said they had implemented some form of RPA, and another 16% said they plan to do so within 3 years. And what is happening? What companies are doing this RPA? If you're not in corporate America, working at big businesses, you probably would never have heard of any of these companies. If you listen to the show, you probably have. There are 3 companies that are dominating this space. There's UiPath, a standalone automation firm valued at $35 billion now, slated to go public later this year. There's Automation Anywhere, and then there's also Blue Prism. And these are companies serving Fortune 500 companies like Coca-Cola, Walgreens, etc. Microsoft is starting to get into this game. And basically, the article is talking about how companies are using RPA all over the place now to automate a lot of work that white-collar, college-educated employees used to do. And a lot of it involves pushing around numbers in spreadsheets or moving data from one system to another or merging data sets. All this work that people have to do regularly, and it's repeatable and it's the same kind of thing over and over again. You can build a bot that essentially sits, it's a program that runs on a computer that mimics the clicks and the keyboard strokes of a human being. And the software is just smart enough to be able to handle stuff that an Excel macro couldn't. So it's taking that Excel macro idea to the next level. And companies can save just like tons and tons of money automating hundreds of thousands of human hours of work. And that's the dark side of this, that the reason companies are doing this is because it's allowing them to lay people off, basically. You know, kind of similar to what happened with offshoring of manufacturing and offshoring of services in the 90s, you know, call centers going to India and stuff like that. Well, now it's starting to hit the people who are a little higher up the chain. So,
but not, yeah, you're right. It's hitting a white collar. It reminds you of the kind of the story about the founding of auto entry. You know, when Brendan founded auto entry, he met a girl at a bar or whatever. They were some co-friends and they were chatting, and she's saying what her job was. She says, "I'm an accountant," and she basically was just typing bank statements into the accounting system. And he's like, "You went to college and that's what you're doing, right? This white collar educated professional, and you're just doing nothing but just typing bank statements." And that's kind of how auto entry was created, to start scanning those bank statements and put them in the accounting system themselves. So you're right. Like, then what does that person do? It's either they get laid off or they have to find some other way to provide value, especially at bigger companies.
Now, what's interesting about RPA is that, like I said, it's not fundamentally changing the business process. It's just automating the existing process of a company.
The clicks.
Like it's actually taking control of the mouse and the keyboard and doing the thing that the person used to do. And you train it. And it uses a little bit of AI to, you know, deal with when the interface is slightly different or when the windows are not exactly in the same spot on the screen. So it can handle all of those little intricacies that you needed a college educated person to be able to deal with. And the reason it's so popular is that it really juices your short-term profits, because you can take your existing process, your existing ERP systems. You don't have to do a giant big tech change. You can just implement this RPA and get the people off the computers. So it's really popular among executives at big companies because you can immediately save a ton of money on salaries and benefits on this kind of stuff. How fast is it growing? It is expected to rise 20% this year after increasing 12% last year. That's from Gartner's data. McKinsey said that before the pandemic, they expected 37 million U.S. workers to be displaced by automation by 2030. They have recently increased their projection to 45 million. So 2030 is not that far off. Within the decade, or within one decade, we're going to see 45 million workers displaced by automation. That's a lot in a country. Well, I wonder if that's US workers. So, that's a lot in a country where we have something like 200 something million people working.
There's just that many more TikTok creators. We'll see.
I doubt that folks listening to this podcast are doing this kind of work. But if your job is basically moving data from one system to another, just doing the same kind of spreadsheet formatting and massaging every single month for your corporation, then get out of that as soon as you can. Learn to use the RPA, I guess, is the best thing that I could say. And then you'll still have the job managing the bots. Yeah,
you figure out how to use it yourself, so that way, when your company buys it or makes the acquisition to you and signs a contract with these companies, because as an executive of your company, it's an easy sell, right? The sales guy's just going in there, but like, hey, you can get rid of 25% of your staff if you buy this software. The software costs this once, and you don't have all the HR headaches and all the other stuff. And so executives are going to sign up and pay for this in a heartbeat.
Yeah, the ROI is instantaneous, pretty much. And
if you can be able to be one of the people that can embrace it and jump ahead on this, it makes a big difference. I went through this with quality assurance testing. So automation started rolling into that industry, 12 years ago. And it's very similar, right? You would replace your mouse clicks. And it really you'd really figure out how to utilize it to accent you, right? So you could test more, but it would never replace you, right? But you could use it to augment you and make you more effective. Right. Because you would never be able to run the same 300 tests every single day. It would take you a week and a half to do those 300 tests. But now you're running 300 tests every day, which allows you now to do another 7, 8, 9 deep tests that you're thinking harder at. Maybe you're trying to cause some destructive behaviors in a product, right? And so you could utilize this to kill some of your mundane tasks that you'd never be able to get through, to really open up your freedom to work on, I might say, more important stuff, but deeper work, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of work in corporate America that can be automated in this way. And it's not 100%, but 20, 30% of a typical job in finance or accounting could very easily be automated today. Especially like that example you gave, Brendan Woods from Auto Entry talking with that girl, keying in bank statements. There's still so many businesses where that's how they get the data into the accounting system every day, as somebody logs in to online banking and keys in a bunch of transactions, or even just downloading the CSV file and importing it. That's something that an RPA bot can do. I've got one more fun story to take us out here today. This is a restaurant in Canada, a burger restaurant in Canada that went viral for renaming items on its menu so that customers can expense them. So if you go online and you look for Good Fortune Burger in Toronto, Ontario, on Uber Eats and DoorDash, you can now buy a burger that is called a basic steel stapler, or a mini dry erase whiteboard, or a wired earphones with mic, or a silicone keyboard cover. And some of the copy on this site is great. The listing for the veggie burger says, been working through lunch or dinner? Grab this emerald veggie burger disguised as earphones, then expense it to the big man. So the idea is, you get the receipt and it says CPU wireless mouse for $5, and then you can expense it through your expense management software, and nobody will be the wiser. So I thought that was kind of funny. But I feel like it's pretty easy to catch this, given that, the restaurant is still called Good Fortune Burger. It would work, though, if the restaurant was something like The Office or Office Supply or something like that. Then maybe you could get away with it. Speaking of another fun story, I want you to cover this before you jump off, because I saw it in your notes about Excel and marijuana growers. Yeah. So this is a story that I subscribed to this financial modeling newsletter, and this story was in there, and it's really amazing. It's the headline is, Indoor marijuana grower keeps strict schedule to maximize output, avoid bottlenecks. And it's all about Chris Ball, the owner of Ball Family Farms in Los Angeles, who cultivates marijuana. And it's all about how Microsoft Excel is the most important tool in his cultivation toolshed. He says, quote, our best friend is that computer program. And he explains in the article about how he depends on Excel to plan and coordinate the 7 strains of cannabis that he grows annually in 8 grow rooms that can each hold about 60 plants. Here's how it works. Quote, at the beginning of the year, we come together as a team and map out the entire year from start to finish, from January all the way to December 31st. We write out our schedule of when this strain is going to be in this room for this many weeks, this strain in this room for this many weeks. Having all that on an Excel sheet helps us forecast how we're going to operate. We can forecast how many hours of labor we're going to need on said day if we're de-leafing, if we're trimming, if we're transplanting, if we're just watering. But we have to forecast it out for the entire year to be as efficient as possible throughout the year and not be wasting money and labor costs, not run into an issue where we're harvesting 2 or 3 rooms on the same day. In other words, the reason this is super important and that they have to plan all this out is that the different strains have different timing. And so you have to make sure that you have enough people available every day on your workforce to harvest, to do all the different tasks. So if you plant at the wrong time, you might end up with a situation where you have to do all of the rooms in one day. And that's just not possible with the labor you have. So I just thought this was really fascinating. Like, cannabis production is really complicated. And there are entrepreneurs out there who are doing really awesome budgeting and modeling and finance stuff in this industry.
And it's still Microsoft Excel.
And it's
it's
continues
Excel to save the day.
Well, you think about it, this is highly specialized, right? And this is why Excel is always going to be super popular, because it is completely customizable to whatever your business is. Somebody would have to go and create a modeling program that can handle all of the different intricacies of what they're doing in their particular operation. And that could be really hard. But with Excel, he can build this himself. And he says that at the end, they've color coded all the different cells in the schedule, so he can look visually.
Different shades of green.
Different shades of green. I don't know what it is, but he can look, and he says it looks like Tetris. So you can see all the different things that are happening on every day, and they have the different gaps in. They build in some buffer time in case there's an AC repair that needs to happen, and that will delay harvesting. I love this article. So it's in Marijuana Business Daily. And again, you could just search for, I bet you could search for Marijuana Business Daily Excel schedule, and you'll find this story. It's pretty great.
They're right there from a competition standpoint regarding podcasts. The Marijuana Business Daily podcast is always like they're either one above us, 2 above us, we're 1 above them. They're our nemesis in the cloud accounting or the podcast charts.
That's great.
Well, so you can help us beat them, our listeners. You can help us get ahead of Marijuana Daily in the podcast charts by leaving us a review.
And where can people leave a review?
So there's 2 places. Right inside your Apple Podcast app, you can leave a review, the Cloud Accounting Podcast there. Give it 5 stars, put a little comment. We'll read it on the air. For those of you that are not in the Apple Podcast universe, you can go to podchaser.com. You can write a review there about the Cloud Accounting Podcast, and that'll show up in other apps.
And if you want to follow me online, I'm on Twitter at Blake T. Oliver. How about you, David?
I'm pretty easy to find, just David Leary, 1 word, and I'm on all the socials. You can find me using that. Until next week, great to see you, David. Hope your kids get back to school soon. Soon, yes. And hopefully soon I'll have an office, a recording studio. Yeah, that's right. I said you've got the frame is going up. I have walls. I finally have walls. It's been we're 8 weeks behind, 9 weeks behind, but it's how it goes when you do construction. Well, you'll have to send me the picture so I can put that on Instagram. Perfect. All right. We'll document the progress now that there's actual walls up. Yes. Talk to you later. Bye. Time for the classifieds. I quickly wanted to let you know about a new project that I've been working on for the last year or so. I'm launching a podcast network called Accounting Podcast Network. It has new podcasts that I know you'll love, like the Accounting Salon Conversations podcast hosted by Amanda Aguilar and the Accounting Automation Workflows podcast co-hosted by Brian Clare and Heather Satterley. Head over to accountingpodcastnetwork.com. That's accountingpodcastnetwork.com. With new tech coming out from around the world each day, how do you filter out the noise and find the best tech for your firm? Launch for Accountants is a tech discovery platform made for accounting firm owners. Here are just a few of the most popular launches from the month of January. a web-based tool for building narratives around your 10 key tapes, a PPP forgiveness utility, and a financial modeling platform that integrates with your entire cloud stack. To learn more, sign up for the weekly newsletter at launchfa.com. Looking to radically increase productivity as a QuickBooks Pro advisor? Instead of juggling a tech stack with your practice, you can now track and manage your workflow, communicate with clients, and manage files, all in one single powerful yet amazingly simple platform, Client Hub. When you leverage Client Hub's all-in-one platform that goes across your team and your clients, magic happens. Ready to start feeling that in your firm? Start your free trial at clienthub.app today. Use promo code CAP25 to receive 25% off your first 3 months. We want to tell you about a new app on the QuickBooks App Store called Uncat. It has nothing to do with cats. It has everything to do with fixing uncategorized expenses. If you're still exporting spreadsheets of uncategorized expenses from QBO to send to your clients, you need to stop doing that. Uncat notifies your clients about uncategorized expenses and lets them add descriptions and receipts online. You can then assign expenses to the right accounts, and everything syncs with QBO so you don't have to copy and paste anything. Uncat is fast and easy for you and your clients so everybody's happier. So ditch the spreadsheets and manual data entry and head over to uncat.com. As a Cloud Accounting Podcast listener, your first client is free. That's www.uncat.com. Want to get the word out about your newsletter, webinar, party, Facebook group, podcast, ebook, job posting, or that fancy Excel macro you just created? Why not let the listeners of the Cloud Accounting Podcast know by running a classified ad? Hit the show notes for the link to get more info.